I'm going to start with 42, which is find the zeros. So we have x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. I'm going to solve by factoring. So I have x squared. You have x minus 3. You factor the minus 4, so you have x minus 3. And if you wanted to check this, all you would have to do is multiply negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. You're going to factor x minus 3. That's factored. You're left with x squared minus 4. So we have x minus 3, and then x squared minus 4. You find the factors of 4, which this is a difference of perfect squares. This will be x plus 2 and x minus 2. So the zeros are 3, negative 2, and 2. For the one beneath it, you have x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x. You're going to factor the x. So you have x squared minus 4x minus 5. So you have x is equal to x times x minus 5 times x plus 1. In this case, the zeros will be 0, 5, and negative 1. Each of these would be a multiplicity of 1. This would be a multiplicity. All of them would be multiplicity of 1. This one in the bottom would be multiplicity of 1. Find the possible zeros. You're going to get factors of 18 divided by the factors of 1, which comes out to these here. So what I would do, like I taught you in class, a shortcut, go to Desmos, and that's what I'm going to get right now. I'm getting Desmos. What I would do is I would try to find at least one root, maybe 2. So I'm going to find one root. So I have x to the power 4, 7x cubed, 13x squared, 3x is 18. And you notice we have several roots here. This root, which is 1, or we have 1. We also have a negative 2, and we also have negative 3. So we have 1, negative 3, and negative 2. So let me write that down. Zeros are negative 1, 3, and negative 2. I'm going to double check. It's actually 1. We're going to see how these factors are factors of these of this polynomial. So I'm going to try 1, negative 3, negative 18. 1 times 1 is 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 21. 1 times 21 is 21. And this I have is 18. 1 times 18 is 18, and that's 0. So that tells you that this is a linear factor. And I'm going to use negative 3. And now my coefficients are 1, 8, 21, and 18. 1 is negative 3. 8 plus negative 3 is 5. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Minus 15 is 6. And negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. So that's 0. One more 0. 2. So we're going to try negative 2. So we have negative 2. And 1, 5, 6. 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 5 plus negative 2 is 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 0. So I have x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals negative 3. So we have x equal negative 3, negative 3. So that's a multiplicity of 2 for negative 3, negative 2, and then 1. Double zeros. 24, plus or minus 12, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 1. You get the factors of 24, and then you divide by 1. But in this case, if we divide by 1, we're going to get back the same factors. We're going to do my shortcut. Go ahead and type this into Desmos. X to the 4th, we have 2x cubed, 14x squared, 14x have negative 4, 1, 3. So we found all the zeros. So for negative 2, negative 3, 4, negative 2, 1, and 3. To show you are indeed factors are real zeros. So I'm going to show you that x plus 4 is a factor. I'm going to show you that x plus 2 is a factor. I'm going to show you that x minus 1 is a factor. And I'm going to show you that x minus 3 is a factor. And I'm using synthetic division. If my remainder is 0, then it is a factor. So we have 1, 2, negative 14, 24. 4 times 1 is negative 4. 2 plus negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 is 8. Negative 13 plus 8 is negative 5. Negative 4 times negative 5 is 20. Negative plus 20 is 6. Negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. And that remainder is 0, so that shows that is a factor. So now negative 2. The coefficients of my last polynomial is a factor, so we have 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 times 4 is positive 8. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. So yep, that is a factor. The remainder is 0. I have 1. So I have 1, negative 4, 3. 1 is 1. Negative 4 times negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So the remainder is 0, and that is a factor. And the last one is x minus 3 equals 0. So x equals 3. Graph to determine f of 0. So if you go to 0, your output is 0, so it's 0. F of negative 1, negative 1, 1. And the last one is f of 1, negative 1. So that's how you figure out f of 0, f of negative 1, and f of 1. 38 of each root. So to find the root, you're going to factor a common factor, the greatest common factor, which is x. So you're left with x squared minus 2x plus 1. You look at 1. What number do you multiply to get you 1? We'll add it to be negative 2, which is negative 1 and negative 1. These are the linear factors. The roots are going to be x equals 1, x equals 1. And you notice that these two are a multiplicity of, and there's a multiplicity. X cubed minus 2x squared minus 15x. The common factor is x. So we're left minus x squared minus 2x minus 15. You factor in x, that add up to be negative 2. So it's going to be x minus 5 times x plus 3, and each of them is a multiplicity of 1. List the real zeros of the following polynomials. So I'm going to use the rational root theorem to look for the possible /0. You look at the constant 21, plus or minus 21, plus or minus 7, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 1. And you're dividing by 1, right? So these are all zeros of the possible roots. I'm going to use Desmos. X to the 4th power to the 3rd power squared minus plus. Okay, so just to make sure, I have x to the 4th plus 2x cubed x squared minus 14x plus 21. I mixed them up. 21. So 3. I have negative 1, 2.64 down. If you're able to see it graphically, use them. So I have x equal 1, x equal 2.646, negative 3, and negative 2.646. If I can save you if I can save time. So it's 1, 2.646, negative 3, 2.6, negative 2.646. 34, explain zeros and the factors of the polynomials. So the zeros are actually where the graph will intercept the x-axis in both cases. So we have negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 2. The linear factors are x, because x equals 0, x plus 2, x plus 1, x minus 2. And we have 0 and 2, so it's going to be x and x minus 2. Give a possible factoring polynomials. So my x values are negative, and 4. And if you wanted to give the factors, it'd be x plus 3, x minus 4, x equals negative 2, 1, and 3. So the linear factors are x plus 2, x minus 1, 3. The zeros are negative 2, negative 1. That's it. It's just negative 2, negative 1, and 1. So the factors are x plus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 1. Now, the end behavior, down and up. This one's odd and up, so that's even. And this one is down, down, so this is also even. Of this function, 2 times the cube root of x minus 3. Which statement describes the change? Okay, so if you have a hard time with this, what I would do is I would graph it. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the cube root. Of course, Desmos doesn't have the cube root, so you have to type in x raised to the power 1/3, and there is the cube root. That is cube root. Now, the y equals 2 x raised to the 1/3 power, and that's x. If you notice, both down, and then that 2 is affecting the vertical, it's a vertical stretch. So it says here shifted 3 units down, so down, down. So it would definitely be A or B. And it says a vertically by a factor of 2, so that's the cube root function. What is the effect? So I'm going to come over here to Desmos, and I am going in. Of course, if you're using a fraction here, you have to have, of course, you have to have it outside the x minus 4. X minus 4 to the 1/3 power. You notice that it goes to the right. So you look at your answer choices. Which one goes to the right? Or this one goes down? You got to be careful. Remember that these two go under the radical, or under the radical. So your answer will be D. It goes to the right. The cubic function to y equals negative 2x cubed minus 7. What effect will this have on the graph? So I'm going to go ahead and get Desmos over here, and it's not a cube root cube, so there's the parent function. So I have y equals negative 2x to the 3rd power minus 7. You notice it is reflected the x-axis, and then it also goes down, and then it's also stretched. That 2 right here is stretched. The minus is a reflection, and then the minus 7. So reflected over the x-axis, it's not shifting up, it's actually shifting down, and it's vertically stretched. So your answer is C. I'm on number 24, and I'll be doing the evens, and I'll do the odds in class. It says the graph f of x is equal to x cubed if the function is changed to f of x equals x cubed plus 5. Which graph depicts the transformed function plus 5 it's going to move it up. So your answer is B. Now, if you want to see this, you can go to Desmos, and you have x cubed plus 5, and there is a function that went up, and the answer is B. Which of the following are factors of the polynomial? So you got to first find the greatest common factor. In this case, it's x, and you have 2x squared minus 13x plus 6. The way I taught you first semester with factoring, 2 times 6 is 12. So you have x squared minus 13x plus 12. Find the factors of 12 that add up to give you negative 13. So we have x, and we have x minus 12, x minus 1. And since we did take the 2 away, we're going to divide by 2. So it should be x minus 6, right? And this we have 2x minus 1. So your answer is A. If you want to check this, there is a way to check this. Go to Desmos. You're going to type in 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 6x. And you notice the zeros are 0, so the factor is x. 0.5, which is x minus 1/2, which comes out to 2x. 2x minus 1, and then 6. So it's x minus 6, and then 2x minus 1, which is x minus 1/2. 20 is the difference of two squares, and you do have the formula. A squared minus b squared is equal to a minus b, a plus b. So we have x squared minus y squared. So it's x minus y and x plus y. I'm going to give you this formula on the test, along with the other factoring formulas. So your answer is B. For what value of x is always true, that we have the square root of 3x minus 8 is equal to 4. So what you have to do here, you have to square both sides, because you want to eliminate the radical. So you have 3x minus 8, and remember 4 times 4 is 16. The next step is to add 8. So 3x equals 24. Divide by 3. So x equals 8. Remember that you always want to check, and you're going to check with the calculator. Square root 8 times 3 minus 8 is equal to 4. 8 times 3 is 24 minus 8 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So that's true. If x is a real number, what is the solution to this equation? So you have the square root of 1 minus 2x equals 2. You have a radical, so you want to raise this to the second power. You want to raise this to the second power. So you have 1 minus 2x equals 2 times 2 is 4. At this point, you want to subtract 1. So I'm kind of going into the next problem, so I'm going to put it to the side. Negative 2x, a lot of people forget that negative, is equal to 3. So x, you have to divide next. Divide by negative 2. So your answer is negative 3 over 2. So your answer is B. Remember to go into the calculator and substitute and check. Let f of x equal the parent function. Describe the parent function. Describe g of x in terms of the parent function. G of x is f of x. Okay, so it's asking what is the transformation that takes place. The plus 6 means it goes up 6. Up 6, up 6, down 4, up 6. Okay. The 2 on the outside is always going to vertically stretch. It's going to stretch. So the only ones that have stretch are B and C. 4 units, the minus 4 is on the inside, so it's going to go to the right. So your answer is B. You always want to try to eliminate answers whenever you can. Find the remainder when the polynomial is divided by x minus 2. Remember, we're going to use synthetic division. So on the side, you have x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 2. So 2 goes here. Go ahead and list the coefficients. 1, negative 3, 3, negative 2. Bring down the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 3 plus negative 2 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. There is no remainder. And this is interesting because remember in class when I told you when there's no remainder, then this would be called a factor. That's a factor of the polynomial. Number 8, use synthetic substitution. You're gonna do synthetic division. By the way, in your booklet, this is 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed minus x squared minus 2. So the coefficients are 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2. That's the coefficients. So synthetic substitution is doing synthetic division. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 2. Negative 1 times 2 is 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. So I'm going to stop. I want to make sure that I got everything down. So it's 2, 3, negative 1, and negative 2. Bring down to 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 1. Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Okay, so the remainder is what we call synthetic substitution. So we know that the function, when you input negative 2, it's going to be equal to the remainder, so it's negative 4. So your answer is negative 4. So when they say synthetic substitution, you're looking for the remainder. And there is a way to check this. All you're doing is you're substituting in x with negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get Desmos out because you always want to check your work. So go to Desmos. And so you have 2x to the fourth plus 2x cubed minus x squared minus 2. And let's just say that's f of x, right? So one thing about Desmos, it understands function notation. So f of negative 2, it should be 10 unless I wrote something down wrong. So I have 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed minus x squared minus, okay, so it's 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed minus x squared minus 2. So the answer should be 2. So we'll check our answer right now. A negative times a negative is positive, but yeah, that's 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. I know the mistake. This is 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed minus x squared. I'm missing the x here. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. 0 plus negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. That's the remainder. The answer is 2. So I made the mistake. I forgot about the x here. So don't forget to put the x. So it's x to the fourth, x to the third, x squared, and you need here 0x minus 2. And I was getting it wrong, so it is going to be 2. The graph of y equals 3 minus square root of x minus 4 appears in which quadrant? So I'm going to go ahead and get Desmos here. So I have y equals 3 minus square root x minus 4. So it looks like it goes in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. Remember, this is counterclockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 2 and 4. So your answer is E. So if I had to do a sketch, the graph looks like this. So it's in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. This is 2 and this is 3, quadrant 3, counterclockwise. So your answer is E. Number 2, determine the factors of the following polynomials. You're going to factor this by grouping. So you have x cubed minus 6x squared, that's the first group, plus 4x minus 24. That's the second group. You're going to look at the first group, and you're going to factor in x squared, and you're left with x minus 6. The second group, you're going to factor a 4, and you're left with x minus 6. And you notice that you have x minus 6 here, and you have x minus 6 here. So go ahead and factor x minus 6, and then we have x squared plus 4. Now this right here, if we were to solve for x, that would be imaginary. This is a real factor, or linear factor. So if you wanted to use Desmos, you would only be able to see this here, x equals 6, not this one. This is imaginary factor. When you see 4 terms like this in the test, you can try doing it factor by grouping. So you're going to factor these 2 and then factor these 2. So I'm going to factor a 2x squared. So you're left with 2x minus 1. Now the other factor, you can factor 9. And so it's going to be 2x plus 1. And let me erase this really quickly. Okay, I have a minus 18. So what you're going to factor is you're actually going to factor a minus 9. Minus 9. So you have 2x minus 1. So you notice here you have 2x minus 1 and you have 2x minus 1. So you can factor 2x minus 1. So that's factored and that's factored. So you have 2x squared minus 9. And so those are the factors.